It's amazing, Barb. I mean, it was a coup, not a physics equation. I mean, there was no. I mean, the idea that Mr. Is it Chesbro or Cheesebro? Can you give us a final verdict on the pronunciation of his name first, Katie Phang?
Well, a typical Lori answer is maybe, because his lawyer today in court said it was. And I'm serious. I'm going to do attribution right now. His lawyer in court today said it was Chesbro, but then one of his lawyers in the 1-6 case said it's Cheesebro. And so I think it's a free-for-all. You can pick whichever one you want.
Oh, that's fantastic. His own two attorneys pronounce it two different ways. I don't feel so bad. Barb, let me come back to you. I mean, this argument of, if I understand Katie's reporting and analysis, the argument was that they would be separated from the Kraken lady because he was just the intellectual force behind the coup. It was all cheating. It was all overturning democracy. It was all, as the judge in the Enrique Tarrio sentencing said yesterday, it was all halting the centuries-long practice of peaceful transfer of power, and they were all in it up to their eyeballs.
Yes, and as we heard that assistant prosecutor say in the courtroom today, they're going to have to prove this whole conspiracy every time they come to court. And they said it probably is going to take them about 4 months to do that. So as many different groups as go to trial, we're going to see that whole proof again and again and again. So the idea that I don't want to be associated with Sidney Powell because she was involved in allegedly a computer intrusion in Coffee County, that's all coming in anyway. The jury's going to hear about the whole enterprise, about all aspects of this crime, and then they're going to be asked to decide the guilt or not guilt of Kenneth Chesbro and Sidney Powell if those two are together. But the evidence they hear is going to be the same in every case because they have to prove this RICO enterprise. So I don't think that argument about spillover evidence from Sidney Powell is going to be persuasive to this judge because it's going to exist whether they're in the same trial or not.
You know, Frank, there are a lot of elements of this part of the process that are opaque, I think, to non-lawyers and people that don't go to a courtroom to do their job. But there are parallels, right? I'm a big fan of The Wire, and I've talked about this before, the Stringer Bell scene where he says, you don't take notes on a criminal conspiracy. There are things that these charged criminals, these 19 co-defendants in what Fani Willis has charged as a criminal enterprise did, are dumb even by criminal standards. And that is all of the evidence in writing. All of the emails with multiple people on it, the meetings that reporters stumbled into, carrying out a fraudulent process of sending fake electors that the people describing themselves as the intellectual ones behind the coup were orchestrating in multi-states. I mean, at the end of the day, what do you make of the strength of the evidence and the probability that once presented, all of these defendants are still in a lot of legal jeopardy?
It is the brazenness, isn't it, that really takes us all aback. And it's where'd they get it from? They got it from their leader, Donald Trump, who was committing crimes in plain sight, lying daily to us all at rallies and press conferences. And so it's that brazenness that's tripped them up. I think specifically of Coffee County coming in on a holiday. It was like a long weekend. Maybe it was MLK Day or some other holiday weekend when the Coffee County Elections Office was closed. And, you know, yet we see them coming in. It's opening up for them on a holiday weekend, and they're going in. It's brazen out in the open. They don't care if there's cameras, witnesses. Now, what would be interesting is if their defense counsel decides, you know what, I'm going to use that brazenness, and I'm going to say, would they be taking all these notes? Would they be going in on a holiday weekend conspicuously? If indeed they thought they were doing something wrong. I don't think a jury or a judge is going to buy that, but it's noteworthy to say that they've adopted the same kind of approach to criminality as Donald Trump has. It's kind of a trickle-down theory of criminality.
I mean, Katie, and that has been true in the public arena. But I think there's also some analysis in Politico yesterday from Kyle Cheney and Josh Gerstein that is getting a little hot in the kitchen, if you will, that people are now taking that dynamic and starting to flip and tell stories about doing it all at the direction of Donald Trump. How is that impacting things on the ground there?
Well, it's hard to ignore people like Yusel Taveras, who was the Trump employee in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, that once he got his own lawyer who was not paid by the Trump PAC, that he was able to find Jesus and basically flip on his co-defendants and cooperate with the government. We are so early on in this process here in Fulton County. We just had arraignments this morning where everybody filed written waivers of appearance. Today was the first substantive opportunity for us to see how people are going to work. And there was literally 2 defendants that were the subject of the hearing today. Let me also note, Nicole, in the peanut gallery, there were lawyers for the other defendants that were present. They also wanted to gauge the strength of Fani Willis's case, the litigation chops that were going to be on display from the state. But I want to note something. When I was at the Meadows evidentiary hearing last week, there was an amazing moment of cross-examination that I know that you covered, Nicole, where Mark Meadows denied having anything to do with the fake elector scheme. And basically on cross-examination, the state of Georgia whips out an email that shows him forwarding to Jason Miller in the Trump campaign a Kenneth Chesebro
Yes.
memo. And the reason why I say that is we haven't seen that, Nicole, in any of the public evidence. And so when the state's discovery comes out over the next week to 10 days, I would be stunned if we didn't see more of this smoking gun evidence. You cannot underestimate a prosecutor like Fani Willis, whose bread and butter has been RICO prosecution. And so there was also John Floyd today at the state's table. He is like a RICO guru, and he has been working as a special counsel with the DA's office. And so they know how to do RICO here in Georgia.
I think it's a really important piece of reporting that you've just shared with us, Katie, that we don't know what we don't know about what any of the prosecutors have in terms of evidence. But something we've talked about for 8 years now is that the bar for any prosecutor to bring and to charge an ex-president is so high that internally there is a lot of pressure to make sure that the evidence is overwhelming. And I think you're talking about a couple of examples of that.